Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. In today's weather forecast, we'll be looking ahead to the pattern going through the rest of this week into the weekend, including a couple new snowstorms across the north and a warm-up across the country. And then we'll also look ahead at late February and early March's pattern later on in today's weather forecast. So good morning, everyone. Hope everybody's having a great start to their week. It is Valentine's Day today, so happy Valentine's Day to every single one of you out there. Looking at our low temperatures this morning, and it's pretty winter-like across the country here. A lot of us are below freezing this morning, except for the deep south. Areas down here are well into the 30s and into the 40s this morning. And let's look at our current weather conditions out the door as well. Very quiet across the country largely, except for a few snow showers across the Dakotas, in particular South Dakota this morning and back into Montana and Wyoming, and a little bit of precipitation moving in to southwestern Oregon and northern California with a mix of rain and snow out there. Otherwise, very quiet across the country here this morning, but it was not the case just about 24 to 48 hours ago. Here's your past day or so of snowfall accumulation across New England and the Northeast. And look at the New England coast here. We saw some healthy snowfall accumulations here from Rhode Island down through portions of Connecticut there, southern New York State, including the New York City area and Long Island. Over a foot of snow there, down into north central New Jersey and eastern, southeastern Pennsylvania, northern Maryland. A lot of these areas saw some very healthy totals, well in excess of 6 inches over the past couple of days. Now let's step back and look at our overall weather pattern here today on the 14th, Valentine's Day. There's our low pressure system across eastern Canada. That was our snowstorm we dealt with yesterday. Here you can see the yellows across the Mississippi Valley and the east. That is high pressure working in. That will bring us more sunshine and warmer temperatures across the middle of the country today. And then looking across the Pacific Northwest, showing these blues here, that is our next active pattern setting up in the northwest flow. And these are small little clipper systems that will bring snowfall to the north as we go into late this week and through the weekend. But let's look at our temperatures this afternoon, because with that ridge in place in the middle of the country and with bare ground out there, we don't have a lot of snow on the ground anymore in the middle of the country. So temperatures will skyrocket well into the 50s, 60s, and yes, possibly even some 70s out here further to the south across the southern plains and down into south central Florida. Once again, 70s will be possible this afternoon. Well, if you like detailed weather breakdowns across North America through 2024, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below, and I would love to hit 100,000 subscribers by spring, and you can help me get there simply by subscribing to the channel down below. Also pressing the like button down below. It helps out more than you know. So let's look here at the overall weather pattern late this week, especially Thursday the 15th. This is tomorrow into your Friday the 16th time frame. And notice a couple things here. We have that ridge of high pressure up here into Alaska. That's going to force our low pressure storm track further south across the Pacific Northwest and the northern tier of the United States with overall weaker systems. We're talking clipper systems bringing some lighter snowfall. And then further south, this is going to squash that ridge down across the south central U.S. as we have those clipper systems rounding the top of that ridge later this week. So let's look at our temperature trends during this period. This is Thursday the 15th into Friday the 16th. Notice we got some cold air here. We got below normal temperatures favored across southern Canada and entering into the northern Rockies during this period. That is with a cold front, and you can see across the southeastern and eastern U.S. we are generally at or slightly above normal with our temperatures later in the week. So let's peek into what those high temperatures look like. So as we go into your Thursday afternoon, here are your high temperatures across the country. There's your cold front further up to the north. Temperatures behind that will be largely below freezing. So up in here into northern Wisconsin, Minnesota, getting in through the Dakotas there, northern Wyoming and Montana, and all of southern Canada will be below freezing here as we go into Thursday. Ahead of the front, temperatures will be more spring-like into the 40s, 50s, and 60s across the southeastern U.S. on Thursday afternoon. As we go into Friday, the cold front will make headway further to the south across the lower Ohio River Valley and into the central plains. That means places like the Great Lakes region, the Midwest, the northern plains, and the northern and central Rockies will start to cool down as we go into Friday afternoon, and your high temperatures there will largely be at or below freezing. And then there's your warmer spring-like temperatures ahead of the front again across the southern plains, the deep south, and the southeast going into Friday afternoon. Now let's look at our precipitation trends as we go through that 2-day period, Thursday into Friday. And you can see here's one clipper system, very quick moving system here in the northwest flow from Canada down through the upper Midwest and into the Great Lakes. We have some snow showers potential here into the UP of Michigan, eastern Wisconsin, and northern lower Michigan on Thursday. Another piece of energy entering into the Pacific Northwest, bringing some decent snows for Idaho, western Montana, down here into the Washington State vicinity, Oregon, and northern California. And as we go into Thursday night, there's that first clipper moving into New England, some lighter snowfall for you, also into southeastern Canada. And then there's that second area of energy Thursday night that'll be inching its way into the northern plains, so South Dakota into the Dakotas there, into Wyoming, eastern Montana, and northern Colorado. We'll start to see some precipitation, likely snow there. Then as we go into Friday, that energy will move off to the east, so more snow potential for the Midwest. Again, this is lighter snow, no big snowstorms or anything like that. Further south, it's too warm, so we'll have drizzle and light rain for portions of southern Missouri, southern Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, and Louisiana as we go into that Friday time frame. And even Friday night, you can see as it pushes further to the east, some lighter snow, some flurries around the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, not a backbreaker by any means, just some lighter snow there. And then further to the south, just some rainfall, some lighter rain, not really looking at any severe weather, but just some beneficial rain here for the Dixie Alley vicinity as we go into Friday night. Going into the weekend here, you can see where the cold front will be. It'll be pushing all the way down here across the southeastern United States. This will bring our temperatures below normal largely this weekend for the east, and we'll start to warm up over the top here again where it was cold during the late week time frame into the weekend. We will start to warm up above normal there for southern Canada and the northern U.S., namely the northern plains and the upper Midwest. So looking at those low temperatures, waking up for your weekend there on Saturday morning, it's going to feel a little bit of a shock to the system because we haven't had a lot of this cold air recently. We're going to see some teens out there, possibly some single digits in spots across our northern states, and that freezing line is going to be pushing down into the western Carolinas, into portions there of northern Mississippi, northern Alabama, northern Georgia, and all the way down here toward the Red River in towards Oklahoma and Texas for your Saturday morning. And as we go into Saturday afternoon, you'll notice the chill out there a little bit as our temperatures will struggle to reach into the 30s across the majority of the central United States and the eastern 2/3 of the country by Saturday afternoon. Same thing heading into Sunday morning. Another chilly start to the day, maybe a few degrees warmer than Saturday morning, but still seeing those teens and 20s out there to start the day. But we'll start to see a little bit more return flow on Sunday afternoon, so our temperatures will be effectively moving into the 40s and 50s across the country during that time frame. Now let's look at precipitation trends through the weekend. You can see we have split flow here in the jet stream. We got our very inactive polar jet to the north, bringing a little bit of some flurries and some snow showers to southeastern Canada and the upper Great Lakes region. Not that big of a deal. Then we have our subtropical jet, more dominant jet stream here during an El Nino phase across the south. So this could bring some heavier rains to coastal Texas, coastal Louisiana, and the Gulf Coast in general over here, even into northern Florida. We'll keep an eye on that. And then a more robust system moving in this weekend with an atmospheric river starting in northern California on Saturday. And as we go into Sunday, some of that moisture will be traveling further south into central and eventually southern California And this could be causing some flash flooding concerns out that way. So here's your total precipitation in inches across the country going through between now and Sunday, February 18th. And notice we don't have a lot of precipitation to go around here. Pretty dry in the middle of the country around the Great Plains. To the east, a little bit of light precipitation. To the west, especially the Pacific Northwest, we're going to start to see some pretty heavy rain here for western Washington State, western Oregon, and northern, even parts of central California here. Some of these areas into western Oregon and northern California could be exceeding 3 inches of rain through the weekend time frame, and this could start to cause some marginal and slight risk concerns for flash flooding, especially the 17th into the 18th time frame here for coastal California up here near the coastline of northwest California during that time frame. And just to remind you what that means with our excessive rainfall outlook here from the Weather Prediction Center, that does mean a isolated to scattered flash flooding will be possible. It will be mainly localized, but just something we'll have to keep an eye on there in case we see upgrades to that as we do get closer. Looking at our total snowfall during this time frame between now and Sunday, really not any big snows to go around here unless you're in the Pacific Northwest, and we're going to start in the west and show you here. So pretty decent snows out here across the Rockies and our mountains up here into Washington State and Oregon. A couple of feet of snow possible. The northern Sierras there in California could get a foot or two of snow. Some decent snows for you. Otherwise, the mountain areas here and toward portions of the Rockies into Idaho, into portions of western Wyoming there, into northern Utah, northwest Colorado. Just about a foot or so of snow in those higher elevations. Nothing we haven't seen before. Moving across the central U.S. here, those clipper systems could be bringing us an inch, maybe 2 inches of snowfall here. Some wet snow, the 10-to-1 ratio snow here that's very hard to shovel across portions of South Dakota there, getting through Nebraska, southern Minnesota and Iowa, moving through Wisconsin and Illinois, and then pushing across the Ohio Valley there into the northeast. Again, another 1 to 3 inches possible during this time frame. Certainly not that big of a deal. Now, looking at the pattern as we go into next week, we're going to see some changes here. And this pattern just keeps going back and forth. You can see during the 19th through the 23rd time frame, the Monday through Friday time frame next week, we're going to have a ridge start to build back after our cold front this weekend. And that is actually going to send our temperatures into spring-like territory here. And the Climate Prediction Center is forecasting likely above normal temperatures, especially in the middle of the country there around the Great Plains, especially the southern plains during that next week time frame. So let's peek into those temperatures and what they could look like out your door next week. And you can see on Monday, temperatures will be into the 40s all the way up into the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes there, and into New England. As we go into Wednesday, look at these temperatures, folks. We're pushing up near 60 there in the Des Moines region and Omaha, up there towards Chicago, getting very close to the 50s, 70s widespread across the southern plains there as we go into Wednesday, middle of next week. Then as we go into Friday, you can still see the warm air sticks around. Not as warm, but still, we'll take 40s, 50s, and 60s whenever we can get them in February later on next week. Then as we look here at the pattern again, notice we have a trough starting to build in across the west coast here, undercutting this ridge that's moving across portions of the middle of the country. This is actually going to bring our atmospheric river event back across California and the west, and this could bring well above average precipitation during the 19th through the 23rd time frame. And here's the precipitation during that week. This is next week, Monday the 19th through Friday the 23rd. Lighter precipitation out east, very dry underneath that ridge in the middle of the country, and then as that trough starts to undercut the western side of that ridge, we're going to see some very heavy rain again for California and widespread amounts here of at least 1 to 3 inches, and this could trend upwards as we do get closer, so we'll keep an eye on that. Looking at snowfall trends next week, very important. We're still in winter here. Very light snow for interior New England and southeastern Canada with any leftover clipper systems. Really not that big of a deal, likely around 1 to 3 inches. Looking out west, decent snows again for the Rockies, but the Sierras with that atmospheric river, feet of snow will be possible, possibly in excess of 3 feet through next week, and some of those higher elevations there in the Sierras across California. And then as we go into late in the week here on your February time frame, this is going toward the last week in February, you can see we're going to see cold air from Alaska and western Canadian provinces actually pull itself further to the south. So the western 2/3 of the country will start to remain active, but also remain colder than normal for that time of year as well. You can see the active weather where it will reside across the eastern 2/3 of the country, dry in the middle again, and then wetter across the west. And you can see a lot of the snowfall will be in the same placement that we see here the rest of this week and going into next week. Interior New England, southeastern Canada here, dry in the middle of the country for the most part, and then very nice snowfall out here across the Rockies, the Pacific Northwest, and the Sierras as we go into that last week in February. And finally, going into the first week in March through the 7th, 8th time frame, there's a signal, folks, that winter is not giving up quite yet, okay? This could be the last gasp for winter, and if it is, it could be a potent one as we have lower pressure across the center of the country as that trough. Eventually, all that energy out west with that atmospheric river has to go somewhere, and likely a trough will eject out of the west and into the middle of the country by then, and this could set up a more significant storm system starting in the southern plains on the base of that trough and then rounding itself up here through the Ohio Valley. On the northwest side of that track, we'll be keeping an eye on some heavier snowfall potential. Underneath it, some colder rain and then some severe weather with heavy flooding rain on the eastern and southeastern side of this track for the East Coast down into the southeast during that early March period. And here you go. You can see that in action here across the east. Very heavy precipitation likely, especially for the southeast here. We'll keep an eye on the heavy rainfall, the flash flooding threat, and the severe weather threat, but we'll also keep an eye on the northwest side of that low track, because that could give us some decent snows with winter's last gasp as we go into the first week in March. And this could deliver some decent snows for areas that haven't seen a lot of snow this winter across the northern plains, the upper Midwest, getting through the upper Great Lakes, and southeastern Canada. And this could also be across interior New England during this period as well. We'll keep you updated as we do get closer. Make sure to subscribe to the channel down below for detailed weather breakdowns across North America throughout 2024. We will continue to keep you updated here over that time frame to keep you up to date with accurate weather forecasts. Make sure to hit the like button down below. It helps out more than you know. Share this video with friends, family, and on social media, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Valentine's Day out there.